allies of the United States. Taliban too have different conditions on having peace and stability inside Afghanistan. First of all, they don't accept the Afghan government, the present Kabul government, and also they want a surety that US will withdraw all the troops from Afghanistan, and after that they can talk about peace and stability. Zalmay Khalilzad met the Pakistani officials in Pakistan. We'll watch a report on that, and after the report, we'll continue our discussion on this topic.
Khalilzad, the special representative for Afghanistan reconciliation, arrived in Islamabad to brief the Pakistani leadership on the ongoing peace talks with the Taliban. Prime Minister Imran Khan commended Khalilzad's efforts and stated that a peaceful Afghanistan is in the interest of Pakistan. The US envoy also met with the Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, who tweeted that Pakistan remains committed to the peace and reconciliation process in Afghanistan. Zalmay Khalilzad has recently been on a streak of meetings with the Taliban in order to restore peace to the war-trodden Afghanistan. His proposed peace agreement with the Taliban encompasses 4 major factors: the withdrawal of foreign troops, a Taliban guarantee to prevent terrorist attacks, inter-Afghan dialogue leading to a political settlement, and a permanent ceasefire. Khalilzad states, if Taliban do their part, we will do ours, and conclude the agreement that we have been working on. Despite the best efforts towards peace, violence is on the rise in Afghanistan. The attacks have intensified over the last few weeks, with both the Taliban and the Afghan forces trying to leverage their positions in the agreement. In his meeting with Khalilzad, Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan stressed on the importance of intra-Afghan dialogue.
You just saw the report on Khalilzad's visit to Pakistan. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said that Pakistan will continue to play a role for success of Afghan peace efforts, and Pakistan has done that in the past as well. We'll talk about Afghanistan issue and Pakistan's role in solving this Afghanistan issue and the peace talks that are going on between the United States and Taliban with our special guest in the studios. Our first guest is Ambassador Ayaz Wazir, renowned senior diplomat and expert on Pakistan's relations with Afghanistan and also on Afghanistan affairs. So welcome to the show. Our second guest is Senator Anwar Kakar, renowned senior politician and also Senate's Committee on Foreign Affairs member as well. So welcome to the show. Our third guest is Mr. Hassan Khan, renowned senior journalist and expert on Afghanistan affairs and also on the Fatah affairs as well. Welcome to the show, Mr. Hassan Khan. Mr. Wazir, starting with this recent meeting of on Khalilzad with the Pakistani top officials, with Prime Minister Imran Khan and Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. What do you make out of this meeting? And now he's heading towards Qatar to meet the Taliban.
Well, I would say this was really required and very important also, because Khalilzad was in Kabul for fairly long, I believe more than a week, and he had meetings with almost all those who really matter, other than the government over there. And then he came here also to see as to how things can be moved forward in the talks in Qatar. With Imran Khan, with Foreign Minister, obviously he wanted to know as to how far Pakistan can extend its support to make sure that the Qatar dialogue not only succeeds, but when it comes to implementation, it is thoroughly followed and ensured that it is not derailed. Because Pakistan's support is extremely important. Everybody has recognized the world over. Yes. America, the American president, who is known for abusing Pakistan in the beginning, for all that he couldn't do in Afghanistan, the blame was put on Pakistan. But then he, I think, soon realized, or he was advised, to see the other side of the coin also, because Pakistan can play a very crucial role. And that really started the dialogue going on. And Imran Khan, I would say he has done wonderful press talks in America. On Afghanistan, I really liked when he said openly that there was a period when Pakistan was accused of strategic depth in Afghanistan. But that had a reason which he explained, and there is no more required. So there is no need for Pakistan to be blamed for it, because we want peace in Afghanistan, and that is, if it is required in Afghanistan, it is even more required in Pakistan for development if peace returns over there. So Pakistan will do everything possible. He didn't say that we will certainly bring peace, because that is not within our power.
Course, right. Yeah.
But Pakistan will certainly try all those and put all those options behind it, which it can or it can influence to make the dialogue a success.
Senator Kakar, this situation in Afghanistan is very complex. It's tricky as well. We have seen that in the past. The blame game as well coming from the Afghanistan side. But also, we recently saw President Ghani visiting Pakistan and other opposition leaders from Afghanistan. They visited Pakistan. Do you think that things are improving, and also that Pakistan shouldn't be, let's say, overcommit its role in Afghanistan? That is also very important. How do you see that?
Thanks for having me. To be honest with you, I attended that gathering which was addressed by President Ghani, and he appeared and he was wearing a hat of a Berkeley professor when he was talking over there. You could see that an academia is being reflected in his talk. He spoke sense. He had someone who had sense of region. He had someone who had a sense of economy, and someone who had the sense of history. When you see such a mature reflection on the part of Afghan or Afghanistan, you do feel encouraged. But there are certain myopic approaches also on that side and our side as well. Those tunnel vision is taking both the countries and the people of these countries towards a collision course in the past, which was the unfortunate era of our history. But I feel that there is a silver lining at the end of the tunnel. Right. The reason why I am saying is this. There is no doubt we have been seriously accusing each other. But that accusation has not served the purpose of either Afghans or Pakistanis. Both of them has to realize, and I think so the realization is becoming more stronger, that for economic reasons we need each other. For cultural reasons we need each other. For political reasons we need each other. Geographically we are contiguous to each other. Delhi is far away than Islamabad. Kabul is next door, you know, and across when they were talking of the bilateral trade, you could hear and the echo that Afghans are probably interested in the regional trade. So when they were saying the regional trade, something in their mind was at their backyard of Central Asia and across our western border, that is India. So the whole region is enlarging and becoming huge and big. In that sort of lofty and huge region, you cannot carry on with the negative energy, be it on our side or be it on Afghan side. And the third party over here, unfortunately, I would have to mention, it is the Indian 1 billion populace, and that population has to make a historical decision too. That do they want to dwell in the past of South Asia and they want to stuck to the 1947's history and still take the whole of South Asia as a vivisection of Mother India, or they have to move forward and they have to facilitate a role for their citizenry who can enter 21st century with sense of pride, where they can do the service delivery, where they can hit the poverty, and so on and so forth. Same probably applies on us. Afghans have suffered the most, there is no doubt in that. So that positive energy you could see from all direction. And last but not the least, the two main and important parties or players for this conflict. One was TTA or Taliban as we know it, and the second was Americans. Both of them has realized and they probably have concluded that they need peace and they do understand the goalposts how to achieve it. Right. And I do see a willingness that they are heading towards those goalposts, and today's de facto player, Taliban, I foresee that they are becoming the de jure party of Afghanistan sooner or later.
This is a very important point, Mr. Hassan, that Taliban certainly are a strong party in Afghanistan, This is the 7th or 8th round of talks of Khalilzad with the Taliban, and obviously Taliban are negotiating from a point of strength as well. We can see that. Not accepting the Kabul government, too, we see that happening in Afghanistan. How do you evaluate Khalilzad's performance as an American envoy talking to the Taliban, Kabul government over there? He recently also met the Kabul leaders in Afghanistan, met our leaders as well. How do you evaluate his performance?
I think so for Taimur, if we see that there is sustained process of dialogue for almost a year now. It begins in September, I think in October last year, and now it is a full round and 7 rounds of talks were held. He is in Doha, he's left Islamabad for Doha for the 8th round. And I think not only his body language in the last, it was on the 7th or 8th, of 7 and 8, when the Afghans were talking to each other. He stayed in the same hotel for 2 days, and he was interacting with the Afghans, with the Taliban and with the Afghans. He is at home with the Afghans, whether it's the Taliban or with the other Afghan leaders. The reason is that he is himself an Afghan. He can speak Pashto very well because this is his mother tongue, and he can speak Dari well because the national language of Afghanistan. And he is an American. He spent almost a number of decades in America. Now he's an American citizen. He's an American diplomat. American administration trusts him a lot as far as Afghanistan is concerned. And I think he delivered. Look at his body language this time when he was in Pakistan, when he was interacting with the Pakistani political leadership. He was very relaxed. It means that the sense of achievement is also there for Khalilzad. He is not only interacting with the Taliban, he is keeping intact contact with the Afghan political leadership. Whenever he either before meeting with the Taliban, he go to Kabul and he stay there with Ghani, and he shared the notes. He dashed into Islamabad, sometime into Beijing, sometime into even he also keep in contact with Delhi. So it means that Khalilzad is not uni-focused, that only he has to interact with Taliban. He understands that there are a number of parties. He understands Kabul, Ashraf Ghani, I think they were
wasn't very happy with Khalilzad just a few weeks back.
Yeah, the reason is that Khalilzad is keeping nothing secret from anybody. He is interacting with Ashraf Ghani, he is interacting with the Pakistani leadership, he is interacting with the Taliban. Look, Khalilzad, I think when last, the 7th round, when Afghans talk to each other, and that continued for almost 10 days or 12 days. That begins on 29th of June and ended on 9th of July. So almost 12 days, continuous talks. And the last day, he went to Beijing. And we were just talking about why he dashed in Beijing. We were expecting to have an agreement with the Taliban the last day of that the 7th round of talk. And we saw he called Pakistan there in public appreciation of Pakistan, the superpowers, the Beijing, the Chinese, Americans, and the Russians. They were waiting for Pakistan, and a statement was issued appreciating the role of Pakistan in Afghanistan. So I think what I see, this is, I think, the entire this web of dialogue and interactions, keeping all the regional power intact, the regional countries in the loop, keeping the international powers in the loop. I think the credit goes maximum to Khalilzad, and that's the reason that he is he's very, I think, very upbeat, and he is so far, I think, he has successfully carried the most intricate and complicated dialogue with the Taliban. And he has kept them to be on their side of the table. So I think this is his success, and it's not only the Pakistanis, the Afghans, the Americans. His boss is Mike Pompeo a number of times. Yeah. He named Khalilzad that my man is there, and he's doing marvelously well.
And Mr. Wazir, the situation in Afghanistan is certainly complex, and 2 tracks are going on parallel, one in Qatar and one in Moscow. Moscow track addresses, the perception is the political side of the situation in Afghanistan. The Qatar track is focusing on the withdrawal of US troops. And I think the bigger question in Afghanistan is the political stability. That is what we all are concerned about, even the people of Afghanistan and people of Pakistan as well, because we have been also the victim, direct and indirect victim of the war going on in Afghanistan. Which component do you think is the most important component at the moment? The withdrawal of US troops or the political scene that would, let's say, take place after the withdrawal over there?
Well, Afghanistan is really a very complex, difficult issue to sort it out and make a good solution out of it. As you said, three groups that we see, Moscow group, Afghan government, and Taliban. The problem is that if you make a deal between Taliban, Afghanistan, between Taliban and America, then Taliban and Afghan government, which they are refusing to talk to, if the deal is made between the three, what happens to the political side? The Moscow, let's call it the Moscow group, that also in their own right is influential within the country. Now, to save the agreement from becoming what happened to the Makkah Accord or Peshawar Accord in Afghanistan, a similar thing after Geneva Accord, I think you have to take everybody on board in this agreement. That is what Khalilzad is trying to make. I personally feel that now in Doha, if Khalilzad and Taliban make the final draft signed on the withdrawal of troops and on the terrorism, Afghanistan is not to be allowed by the Taliban for terrorist activity. When they enter the third phase, which is the intra-Afghan dialogue, that I feel is the most difficult one. But I think a lot of effort has been made to make the two together, the Afghan government and the political or the Moscow group, make one group out of it and make them sit with the Taliban to come to an agreement. And once that is done, then there would not be anyone to openly oppose it in Afghanistan. And then and then you have the regional or the immediate neighbor. Pakistan is already supporting, following. China, another important power, is also supporting. Russia is also supporting. The only country that I am concerned about it's equally important, is Iran, which I think was invited to the Beijing meeting of Russia, China, and Pakistan. But I heard from someone who was very well informed, and I think it happens to be so, that they on their own decided not to come to that. So if Iran doesn't join this group, then I feel the difficulty that one can see if Iran is not agreeing to, then a certain area is there for using it for activity inside Afghanistan. Now that all depends on how the American and Iranian sort out their problems. Because Iran, I think, is not joining just to have that leverage in its hand, that if you treat me badly, I can hit you here in Afghanistan and in the surrounding area. But Iran's inclusion, in my opinion, in this agreement, if it is reached, it is of extreme importance. Without that, I don't see that it will really succeed, despite the fact that all the other major powers would be behind it. But there is then one hole over there, and that can be misused.
Senator Kakar, what is the biggest concern for Pakistan and Afghanistan at the moment? Looking at the situation in Afghanistan, presidential elections are going to take place in September, and President Ghani is already on an extension from the Supreme Court of Afghanistan. Talks are taking place. What concerns Pakistan the most when it comes to Afghanistan?
I think so. The concern which should come to our mind the most is that there shouldn't be any haphazard decision, be it a withdrawal or be it a political settlement. That is what Ambassador Wazir was referring to about the intra-Afghan dialogue. I personally think we should not push for something which is seen as being imposed. There should be a participatory approach from all sides, and all sides should be convinced that why they are sticking to this idea of peace. Because until and unless they are not convinced, they can revert back to their old style of violence, and you will see the same messy situation which we have been experiencing for the last 2 or 3 or 4 decades. rightly identified. If you see post-Geneva situation of Geneva Accord, what happened? Soviets left, and whatever that regime was there of Khalq and Parcham Party, there was an assault, a very famous assault on Jalalabad, which was a futile attempt. Nobody could capture that town, and that so-called government gained confidence, and then 2-3 years of maintaining its position, and then all of a sudden, when they were unable to pay their employees, that collapsed, and that collapse created such a chaotic situation in Afghanistan that till this day we all in the region are confused. We do not know where the tunnel or the light lies. So it even spelled the impact. People would even relate it to the Twin Towers. So it has global implications. And now to bring back that genie into the bottle, what needs again is to be done, that we should learn from all those experiences and all the mistakes which we feel that were done in the past, they should not be repeated. Test and trial has happened. So we need to be cautious on everything, on everything. Either it's an intra-Afghan dialogue, either it is grand expectations by the role of facilitation of Pakistan, either way, the role of Iran or the rest of the regional bloc. The only word of caution is be cautious, be very cautious while approaching Afghanistan.
And being cautious obviously is need of the hour, Mr. Hassan. Securing Pakistan's borders as well. We aren't sure about, as Senator Kakar is saying, we hope that peace prevails in Afghanistan, and we are optimistic that this would happen very soon. But there's always this but thing that comes in, and that is that we hope that the talks continue with no intrusion from any side and it goes smooth. But still, there are some areas on which Taliban don't agree. US might be talking on those points with the Taliban. Withdrawal of US troops completely from Afghanistan, and the void that would be there in Afghanistan would be filled by who? So that is the bigger question. How do you see all these things happening?
Look, I think first, failure in Afghanistan, this ending of conflict is not an option. And that will be horrible, not only for Afghanistan, I think for Pakistan also, both regionally and internationally. One, to be extra cautious, I think so far Pakistan is playing its ball very smartly, so far. Pakistan has engaged almost the entire the community of superpowers, as we said earlier, and mentioned by Ayaz Wazir Sahab also. The Chinese are very proactively engaged in Afghanistan, not only economically. For the first time, they are also engaged politically, and that's the reason I think Pakistan is a bit confident to be on the table now and frontally. Lately, post Washington visit of Imran Khan, you see Pakistan, Islamabad is buzzing. I think it's with Afghan peace process and ending the conflict. So the second important thing is not only the international community, the regional players like the Russians are leading it, the Chinese are leading it, Pakistan is there. Somehow I feel India is on board. No doubt sometime we, in Indian media, we see reports where say there is that there's a feeling of heartburn to be left out of the whole game. But I don't feel that. So far, because the notes are being shared with the Indian leadership also. Iran, yes, Iran is I think there is a problem because Iran is hardly engaged with the Americans, especially the current the conflict is going on. But I think so far, look, Pakistan is now well placed in Afghanistan. Previously, Pakistan was accused to be party with the Taliban, and Taliban were accused to be the boys of Pakistan. But in the last week of June, you saw the entire opposition, as Wazir Sahab was there, the Atta Mohammad Noor, I think it may be his first visit to Pakistan. Hanif Atmar, I feel it was his first visit to Pakistan as an opposition leader. Hikmat Yar and the rest, 60 delegation of the opposition.
Women as well?
They were here for 2 days in Pakistan. And that visit was followed by Dr. Ashraf Ghani. And it was Ashraf Ghani, I think, up to 4 years. He was 2014, I think, After that, it was his first visit to Pakistan. So now everybody, except, and another important thing, look, there is a man in Afghanistan. His name is Amrullah Saleh. He is the vice presidential candidate for running mate of Ashraf Ghani. He was the head of their National Intelligence Agency, NDS. You feel there was an attack on him last Sunday. And whenever anything happened in Afghanistan, I think two persons were I think they were without any investigation, without any fear of contradiction. They were accusing. One was Amrullah Saleh, and another was something Nabil. He was also the head of the NDS. But nobody named Pakistan. Especially, I'm not talking of the other attacks, but especially attack on Amrullah Saleh, where 20 people were killed and 50 were injured. It was the heaviest, I think, that the government and such an important leader attack. And nobody accused Pakistan. It means that Afghans have largely realized that Pakistan is playing its honest role in the peace of Afghanistan. So I think that is the biggest achievement of Pakistan. Now, Pakistan has to be, I think, as it is so far, we see that it is proactively engaged in the peace, in this peace process. I think we and the entire community also, we mean the Pakistanis and the Afghans, that let's put an end to this this conflict. It is not 18-year-old conflict. It is almost 40-year-old conflict. Because it begins in 1979, and since 1979, I think we never heard the guns were off. Were silenced for a single day. So I think this is the time, and the entire credit. One thing more, I think, Taimur, if we succeeded in bringing peace into Afghanistan, and there is a, I think, we hope there will be, because the way the international community is engaged and the Afghans want it, I think the entire credit will goes to Pakistan, because the world's eyes are focusing on Pakistan. Everybody is expecting that it is Pakistan which can which can solve this conflict. So if we, God willing, we succeed, so that will be a big credit for Pakistan also.
Big credit, and
So
Pakistan,
instead of having that much, as Senator Kakar said, that much extra cautious, yes, we must be cautious. But I am not of the opinion that we have to extra cautious. Where maybe being extra cautious, we lose the something very important.
I think that Senator Kakar brought up a very important point, and the point is of some sort of imposed talks on Taliban or perhaps the people of Afghanistan. We shouldn't expedite the natural way of the talks, let's say, because President Trump wants to pull out troops from Afghanistan as soon as possible. That's what the Americans want. Of course, they would just watch their interest in Afghanistan. But what would happen after that, and how things would unfold, events would unfold, that is important for Afghanistan and for Pakistan. Ambassador Wazir, how do you see that?
Well, I agree.
This quick process of
shouldn't
talks.
be imposed anything by anyone on Afghans. Everyone engaged in this business should try to bring the Afghans to the negotiation table and then leave it to them. If we start interfering in the conduct of this agreement, we would be asking for trouble. The Afghans know it very well. They can find a solution to this difficult problem if we stop at the door once they enter into a hall. Leave it to them. Don't dictate things. They will never accept dictation, but even don't try to influence them to expedite the process. They are more in a hurry, I would say, than President Trump or Pakistan. Their house is burning. They want to put that off and bring peace, though they go to their homes. So I think Pakistan is not interfering in the negotiation. Pakistan's job is to bring them closer, provide a facility which is requested and which is within our reach.
And peace, same goes for Pakistan, that Pakistan wants peace as soon as possible.
Exactly. Nobody should interfere in their internal discussion. Demands are known. What the American wants, what the Taliban want, what the Afghan government wants. Let them sit together and sort it out. If we want there to be sorted the way we would like, we would be asking for trouble. I think we should stop at that whichever setup comes in Afghanistan, in this agreement, we should accept it with closed eyes. We should not say that it should be a friendly government in Kabul. Everyone who comes into power in Kabul, in my opinion, will have no option but to be friendly to Pakistan. We are immediate neighbors. We have so many things in common. If I start counting, I'll waste half of your time on that. So that reminds me of what President Hamid Karzai once said when he was here on a visit, that Pakistan and Afghanistan are like conjoined twins, which if you want to, you cannot separate. Effort was made some time back to bring us, I mean Afghanistan and Pakistan, to a point of almost saying goodbye to each other, and other people were already very, very influential inside. But soon this thing was realized, and leadership of the two countries agreed that we will not accuse each other anymore, like what was discussed after this attack in Kabul. The accusation was not shifted to us. So we should try our level best to facilitate the peace process, to influence wherever our influence can work to make it a success. Once that is done, then Afghanistan is your friend. It has no option, I would say. It is dependent on you, because the future, as we look at, belongs to this region, to Eurasia. And in Eurasia, Afghanistan and Pakistan are geographically the most important countries in the region. So peace for them is equally important for Pakistan also. And once the two are in peace, then you have the whole region for development, for progress, for every activity.
And Senator Kakar, you talked about imposing this kind of, let's say, talks on the people of Afghanistan. Mike Pompeo, US Secretary of State, he said that we are expecting some sort of a deal with the Taliban before September 1st. So these were the words categorically. Having a deadline in mind and then categorically saying it, is there some sort of a signal from the American side to the Taliban that we won't expedite it and get it done before that? How do you see this?
Well, I think so. The kind of optimism which you're seeing from the American camp and even from the others, there are a lot of background activities happening, and in those background activities, I think so there is quite a candid sort of a discussion. And in that candid discussion, they know each other's expectations and they know how it can be fulfilled. And in my opinion, even this so-called difficult and challenging task of intra-Afghan dialogue has been talked at length. Taliban, they have shown themselves as an amazing entity. In 2002, they have been ousted by B-52 along with the resolution of United Nations. The government has been taken away from them through military might. This is a known fact. Today, they are returning the government to them. They had the recognition of 3 countries globally. They probably are having an international recognition. They did sail this argument that eventually when the point or the date of withdrawal of the US troops would be announced, next day they would talk, or after that they would talk to the Afghan government also. It's not that they would not talk, but they will in a position where their entity has been recognized as not just acceptable but rather legitimate. And on the basis of that legitimacy, they would respond to the Kabul counterparts of theirs. So it's a fantastic statesmanship on their part. I get surprised at the time when I look at them and how they have transformed from non-existence to one of the most important players in the country. Despite a wrong narrative about them, a negative narrative about them globally, nationally, locally, wherever you count it, it is them who are on the road of success. So that can be translated because, as I said earlier, both the parties who are the direct parties, one is TTA and the other is United States of America, they are talking directly. They are talking directly with our facilitation, and in that direct heart-to-heart talk, they are quite clear about the road they have to take. And I'm also optimistic, and even when I was talking about the caution, still there are spoilers in the region. So you have to be cautious of those spoilers. I know they are not that influential as the major players are, but at times even the relatively small players, they can play havoc.
Daesh for
And
that
this is an historical moment which we shouldn't lose, and this is the only thing or reason that what I was expecting, that an extra caution should be applied. That's it.
And Mr. Hassan, you have been closely watching Afghanistan, you have been there, we have been traveling to Afghanistan together. The political situation over there, this is a perspective, I would just want your take on this, that in last couple of decades, Afghanistan has not seen political stability. This is a war-torn country with an absolute absence of political stability. Violence has been there. Do you see that coming in Afghanistan anytime soon, even if the US forces withdraw from Afghanistan? And also that this Taliban that we see at the moment, they are not the Taliban who were there in 2002. There's a new generation within the Taliban as well, younger Taliban cadre perhaps. They also want maybe peace, open to the world. Do you see that happening, focusing on the political landscape in Afghanistan?
Look, I think talking of political stability in Afghanistan, it might be a bit difficult, because historically Afghanistan, it's never that. About Afghanistan, it is said that across every mountain and in every valley there is a different state. There is an autonomous. So it is part of the Afghan history. But so far, I think current Afghanistan, it is totally different. The reason is for 4 decades they have been in the conflict, and every house, I think, has I think definitely suffered a casualty, whether it was from a Taliban side or from the American sides or from their own internal various groups fighting with each other in the name of jihad or the project like that. So every Afghans, I think they have that what we call it extreme fatigue with this conflict, and they want to live in peace. Then another important thing is Afghans have been exposed by this conflict to the international world. I think they have been out. Millions of Afghan have been out. They are in Pakistan, they are in the Europe, and in the rest of the world. So they have seen the world, how it operates and how it works. Those who were in Pakistan, look at this cricket things. They learned cricket from Pakistan. Now, definitely, they are observing this democratic process, the elections, democracy, how political parties work. So these are the things which they learn here. Many things they would definitely have learned from the Europe, from the US, and from the other countries. So, and the other important thing is the media and this what we call it, the 3G and 4G, 5Gs, etc. So the entire Afghanistan is not that which historically it was Kabul. It was the Sultanate of Kabul, I think. Now, from the nook and corner, look, in one of the programs, when everybody said that Taliban were holding 60 or 70% of the, it was a common narrative that Taliban are holding 60% of the Afghan. I said it's not like that. Definitely Taliban have kept their entity intact for almost 2 decades, but they never hold a position. The entire the strategic communication highways, they were in the hands of the Afghan government. Afghan governments was there. The Afghan flag was on each and every district. It was there. But I think there was no peace in it. Right. So for the future, this time I'm optimistic, keeping in view media, this internet, the social media, and this extraordinary exposure to the Afghan. So definitely this time I hope that will not be the Afghans of 60s or 70s or 80s.
Mr. Wazir, your last comments, this political consensus, do you see that happening? Just keeping in mind what usually the perception is that there's a lot of difference in Afghanistan, warlordism as well that is going on over there, political differences. Keeping all those things in mind, a political consensus, do you see that happening soon in Afghanistan?
Well, I think it has already started. Look at this way. Hekmatyar, who was fighting, has joined back as a political leader. He has put the gun there and is now playing a political role. He has his own political party. So the same would happen with the other leaders. Let's hope peace returns. And when peace returns, gun is kept aside. What activity would those leaders do in the system? They have democracy, and in democracy, you cannot go up alone. You have to have people around you, and then for that you have to have a party. So the political party system in Afghanistan will certainly come up. As Hassan Khan rightly said, the Afghans learned a lot from the West, I would say. When they went as refugees, they got the best education. Now, some of them are in the government also, but my interaction in different seminars in Afghanistan and here with this young lot, to be honest with you, I felt very, very happy. They are very well educated. They know what is good for them and what is not.
Right.
They would not pick up a gun like when it was warlordism. So warlordism is over. It's not coming. God forbid, if this talk fails, then it would be worse than what we experienced in 90. But for that, I don't think anybody is prepared, including Pakistan, other neighboring countries. Everybody wants to push it to a peace return.
And Senator Kakar, your concluding remarks, Taliban too have changed over the years. They met the women who were representing Afghanistan in Moscow, and this was perhaps the first time Taliban publicly meeting women and talking about moving on with this thing in Afghanistan. How do you see things settling?
I mean, I honestly, I have observed that they have even tried to demonstrate their small sense of governance also. They took one of the correspondent of the BBC to Helmand, and where they showed how they would treat dentistry, how they would be having or managing traffic, and so on and so forth, things related to governance. So this is overall a good news for Afghanistan. A good news for Afghanistan that all Afghans, be they from the present government setup or be from this other party which is known as Taliban, that they have sense of commitment and they know that eventually they have to do service delivery for that unfortunate poor nation which has suffered for so long. Yeah. So my inherent optimism is convincing me that it's a good news, it's a positive energy, not only for Afghanistan, but inshallah for the whole of region.
And Mr. Hassan, this is a very interesting point that the people of Afghanistan too have tested at least the fruits of governance that they have seen in the past. Taliban too, if let's say we experience a deal coming soon, they would also have to perform. They would also have to see the way Afghan society has changed over the years.
Look, I think Taliban definitely would have realized that still there is a fear in Kabul because there is still the people remember the way they governed they governed them in the early 90s or from 1996 to 2001. So the people have a lot of fears, and it's not that easy. Definitely they will try to adjust themselves. The problem is, as Wazir Sahab has said initially, that the devils lie in the details. When they enter that part of where Afghans start to Afghan and who will do what and how Taliban will be adjusted. What about their foot soldiers? Whether they will be put in the national forces or not, etc. These are the things. So I think what will be their demand in the governance system. So there are, and definitely they will pass it on once because there is a fatigue, as I said earlier. Taliban also want. They are also tired of war, definitely, because the Afghan government, the Americans, and the Taliban, everybody understand and knew. They have a belief that you can't win the entire country with the guns. So you have to win the hearts and minds of the people. For that, they have to change their attitude. That's the last option.
Right. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Ambassador Wazir, pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for your time. Senator Kakar, thank you for joining us. Pleasure having you on the show. Mr. Hassan Khan, thank you for joining us. The most important thing at the moment is peace and stability. Of course, in Afghanistan, the people of Afghanistan have suffered the most in this war on terror. We hope that Anwar when he heads to Qatar and deals with Taliban, we come up with a peaceful deal that would benefit the people of Afghanistan, as I said earlier, who have suffered the most, and also a peace deal which would benefit the region and Pakistan as well. Thank you for watching today's show. See you next time. Khuda.